This happened in the middle of the afternoon on a busy stretch of 79th Street in the Auburn Gresham neighborhood. A witness who we spoke with says he was coming home from work when he saw this shooting. He went to go help those victims who had been shot. That's when he heard and saw an infant crying in the back seat. Somehow that baby uninjured in all of this.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
A child believed to be less than 1 year old is whisked away by a Chicago police officer Wednesday afternoon after somehow surviving this.
It was just another afternoon in Chicago. Daylight, busy streets, people going about their lives. And then, in a matter of seconds, everything changed. A young mother would never make it home. A baby would survive something no child should ever be near. And a neighborhood would be left asking how something this brutal could happen so openly, so boldly, and with so many unanswered questions. Before we go any further, let me ask you something real quick. If stories like this matter to you, if you believe these lives deserve to be remembered, and these cases deserve pressure, take a second to like this video, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss what comes next. This is Midnight Crime, and staying engaged really does help keep these stories alive. Gabryel Ayres was only 26 years old. Friends and family describe her as warm, driven, and deeply devoted to her child. She was a hairstylist, someone who made a living helping others feel confident, feel seen, feel good about themselves. She wasn't a headline. She wasn't a statistic. She was a mother, a worker, a daughter, a friend. And on that Wednesday afternoon, she was just riding in a car, doing something ordinary, something we all do without thinking twice. Inside that car with her was a man in his late 20s, and in the back seat, strapped into a car seat, was her infant daughter. Think about that for a moment. A baby, buckled in, completely unaware of how close danger really was. Around 1:25 p.m., in the Auburn Gresham neighborhood on Chicago's South Side, that normal moment shattered. Multiple gunmen approached the vehicle and opened fire in broad daylight. This wasn't a single shot. It wasn't chaos. It was deliberate. Investigators later recovered evidence showing that more than 50 shots were fired at that car. Let that number sit with you. Over 50. The car was hit again and again. In the confusion and panic, it crashed into another vehicle. Gabryel had been struck multiple times. She was rushed to the hospital, but she didn't survive. The man in the car was also shot, but he lived. And somehow, against every terrifying odd, the baby in the back seat was physically unharmed. That detail alone stops people in their tracks. How does a child survive that? How does a mother not? And why did this happen at all? As police began piecing things together, one thing became clear early on. This did not appear to be random. Detectives believe the car was targeted. And quietly, carefully, investigators have been looking into whether the man in the vehicle may have been the intended target, not Gabryel. And that's where the tension really starts to rise, because if that's true, then what does that mean for her? For that baby? For the choices that put them in that exact place at that exact time? This case is still unfolding. No arrests have been made. No motive has been officially confirmed. Surveillance footage is being reviewed. A reward has been offered. And somewhere out there, someone knows exactly why this happened. So I want to ask you, if someone you loved got caught in someone else's crosshairs, where does responsibility really begin? Can violence ever truly be contained to its intended target? And how many lives have to be shattered before silence becomes guilt? If you want continued updates, deeper discussions, and stories that don't let these names fade away, make sure you're subscribed to Midnight Crime, hit that like button, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next.
This happened in the middle of the afternoon on a busy stretch of 79th Street in the Auburn Gresham neighborhood. A witness who we spoke with says he was coming home from work when he saw this shooting. He went to go help those victims who had been shot. That's when he heard and saw an infant crying in the back seat. Somehow that baby uninjured in all of this.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
A child believed to be less than 1 year old is whisked away by a Chicago police officer Wednesday afternoon after somehow surviving this. We muted the sound, but cell phone video shows at least 3 people with guns run up and fire dozens of shots into a white car. The shooters then get into a red car, stop in front of the white car, and begin shooting again, then drive away, all while a child was helpless inside that vehicle.
Do we have an officer ride with the 1-year-old to the hospital?
Thank God that baby is so young, they probably won't remember this day, but the baby's going to know that their mother was killed today. That baby could have been killed.
A 26-year-old woman inside the white car was shot several times and later died. A 27-year-old was also shot but expected to survive.
They all had long guns. You know, it's just crazy.
The shooting happened at 79th Street in May around 1:30, just steps from Father Pfleger's St. Sabina Church. He was at the scene moments after the shots were fired.
And somebody needs to be held accountable. And if anybody knows who did that, I think we got some really good shots off the cameras on the buildings over there. I just want them caught.
And after the shooting, that white car crashed into a van. The driver of that van was also uninjured. So far, no arrests have been made. We're live from Chicago Police Headquarters. Charlie DeMar, CBS News, Chicago. Joan, Erica.
Charlie, thank you.
When you really sit with this case, it forces you to slow down and replay that afternoon in your mind. Midday, not late night, not hidden, people nearby, cameras around. And yet, whoever did this moved with enough confidence to unload dozens of rounds and disappear. That alone tells us something important. This wasn't impulsive. It looks planned. And that realization makes the entire situation heavier. Gabryel wasn't known to be involved in anything violent. No reports suggest she was living a risky lifestyle. By all accounts, she was focused on work and motherhood. She spent her days doing hair, talking with clients, sharing moments, and building something for herself and her child. So when people say this shooting may not have been about her, it hits differently. Because that means she may have been in the wrong place for someone else's past, someone else's conflict, someone else's choices. Police have been careful with their words. They haven't named a motive. They haven't named suspects. But the way investigators describe the attack matters. Targeted, ambush style, multiple shooters, over 50 shell casings recovered. That's not chance. That's intent. And it suggests that whoever the shooters were, they were looking for someone specific. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable, and I want you to think this through with me. If the man in the car was the intended target, and the shooters knew who they were after, then they also knew who else was in that vehicle. They would have seen Gabryel. They would have seen a car seat. And still they fired. That's the moment where this stops being just a crime story and starts becoming a moral one. Because even if Gabryel wasn't the target, she became the cost. And that cost was final. As investigators dug deeper, they began pulling footage from nearby homes and businesses. Doorbell cameras, street cameras, traffic cameras. They're tracking movements before and after the shooting, trying to identify vehicles, faces, patterns. A reward has been offered for information, which usually means police believe someone out there knows more than they're saying. And then there's the silence. No arrests. No public suspects. Days pass and the questions grow louder. How does a shooting this extreme happen in daylight, without someone talking? How do over 50 shots get fired and nobody sees enough to stop it? Meanwhile, Gabryel's family is left to grieve her in a way no family should have to. Not only are they mourning her death, but they're also raising a child who will grow up knowing her mother's name but not her voice, her laugh, or her presence. A baby who survived something miraculous, but lost everything at the same time. And that baby is at the center of why this case hits people so hard. Because survival doesn't always mean safety. It means living with the aftermath. It means growing up with questions that never have easy answers. So as we sit here, watching this case unfold in real time, one thing becomes clear. This wasn't just an act of violence. It was a chain reaction. One decision, one target, one moment, and multiple lives permanently altered. And the most chilling part is this. Until someone speaks up, until someone breaks that silence, the truth stays just out of reach.
From all indications, there were multiple shooters who fired dozens of shots, perhaps more than 50. Remarkably, all of those bullets missed a baby who was sitting in the car that was targeted.
Investigators remained at the scene well after nightfall at this corner littered with shell casings, where somehow a baby in this bullet-riddled car emerged unscathed.
What's the purpose of shooting at a car when you know there's a child in the car? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it could be a lot of other people who's lost their life here today.
Kirk Bell is the godfather of 26-year-old Gabryel Ayres, who relatives identify as the woman who was shot and killed in her white Chevy sedan around 1:30 p.m. at 79th and May Street, her car then crashing into a van.
This here is unbelievable. This young lady was a beautiful young lady with a beautiful child, and life just cut short. For what?
Ayres' boyfriend in the car also shot multiple times, but her 13-month-old baby daughter, who was sitting in the back, escaped unhurt.
It's a miracle that baby was not shot. It's a miracle.
St. Sabina Church is around the block from where the gunfire erupted, and the church's food pantry is on that corner. People inside hiding in a back room, and after the gunfire, emerged to help the victims.
So they saw, the young man and the woman shot up in the car as they were trying to get the baby out. But they gave the baby immediately to the police, and the policewoman took it in her car and was holding it.
They need to clean this city up. They need to. This gangs and the shooting and the killing is just unbelievable.
Gabryel Ayres' mother tells me her daughter worked as a hairstylist and was training to be a letter carrier. Police have not offered a motive for the shooting.
And this is where the story shifts, because when there are no arrests and no clear answers, the weight moves from the police reports to the people left behind. It moves to the family replaying that day over and over, wondering what small change could have altered the outcome. It moves to the community, where daylight no longer feels as safe as it once did. And it moves to us, the viewers, the listeners, the ones trying to make sense of a crime that refuses to fully explain itself. Think about how calculated this had to be. Multiple shooters. That many bullets. A narrow window of time. Whoever did this wanted certainty. And yet, the result wasn't what they may have planned. The man survived. The baby survived. And Gabryel, who wasn't known to be part of any conflict, lost her life. That alone raises a hard truth about violence. It rarely stays contained. It spills over, it misfires, it takes people who were never supposed to be part of the story. Right now, investigators are still reviewing footage, still chasing leads, still waiting for someone to come forward. A reward has been put out, which usually means police believe the missing piece isn't evidence, it's cooperation. Someone saw something. Someone heard something. Someone knows who pulled those triggers. And until that silence breaks, this case remains suspended in uncertainty. What makes this even heavier is knowing that Gabryel is now remembered through the way she died instead of how she lived. A young hairstylist. A mother. A woman building a future. Reduced to a headline about shell casings and street names. And that's something we should all sit with for a moment. Because when violence becomes common, empathy becomes optional, and that's when stories like this fade too quickly. But here, we don't let that happen. We talk about it. We question it. We keep the pressure on, because attention matters, memory matters, and justice often follows awareness before it ever follows evidence. So let me ask you to really reflect for a second. How many people are walking around today carrying someone else's unfinished conflict into spaces where innocent lives exist? How many times does survival get mistaken for closure? And how does a child grow up understanding that they lived through something their parent didn't? If this case made you pause, if it made you uncomfortable, if it made you think deeper about how violence ripples far beyond its target, then stay with us. Like this video, subscribe to Midnight Crime, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the stories that demand to be told. Your support keeps these conversations going, and sometimes, that attention is the only thing standing between silence and accountability.